guys, welcome to this video where I'm going to be showing you guys how to build these awesome looking acoustic panels like the ones you see behind me. The best part is that they're inexpensive and easy to build. So let's get started. So I'm going to start this build by cutting the acoustic panel frames out of this 1x2 cedar wood that I got at my local Home Depot. The cuts are going to be made on my miter saw at 30 degrees, and if you don't have a miter saw, that's okay too. You can cut them by hand using a hand saw with a miter box. The size of the frames was determined by the size of the acoustic panels that I had, but we'll get to that a little later on. Every hexagonal frame has 6 sides. You're going to have to cut 6 equal pieces for every frame you plan on making. And in addition to the wood, you're going to need some generic wood glue as well as a brad nailer in order to attach these things together. And that's just at minimum. I've gone the extra mile here of 3D printing these corner jigs in order to help me hold the wood while I glue and nail it, and this is just going to give me a higher degree of accuracy and repeatability, but it's not necessary. I'll be starting the assembly by taking a single corner jig and 2 pieces of wood, and it's the cut faces that are going to be glued together. And so I'm going to take those 2 pieces, I'm going to insert them into the corner jig with the 2 cut faces facing one another. I'm going to apply some glue, and you'll see here that I'm also using some cardboard shims in order to get those pieces of wood tight and pressed up into that jig. And that's because I found out that the 1x2 cedar is not 3/4 of an inch nominal thickness as it would be with 1x2 pine. For some reason, the cedar was a little bit thinner, and so I'm just using these shims here in order to get those pieces tight and aligned properly. And once I'm happy with the alignment of the pieces inside of the jig, I'm going to bring the whole assembly over to the edge of the table where I can better access one of those faces with the brad nailer. I'm going to be using 2 nails per joint, and what you'll notice here is that I'm going to do the bottom nail first, the furthest away from my fingers. This is going to secure the pieces adequately and give me an opportunity to grab something else like another one of these 3D printed jigs and then use that on top of the pieces of wood to hold them down into place while I get the top nail secured in. This is very important because if you're new to using a brad nailer, you may not have experienced it before, but it can happen where the nails don't shoot in straight. Sometimes they hit a knot or something in the wood and they can fire out at weird angles, and you definitely don't want one of these things ending up into your fingers. From here, it's just a matter of repeating this process several more times until you have a complete hexagonal frame. Before moving on, you're going to want to let the wood glue completely dry and just make sure that none of that wood glue has seeped out from those joints and it has made contact with the cardboard shims if you're using cardboard shims like I am. What will happen is that wood glue will stick really well to that cardboard and you'll have a messy cleanup on your hands afterwards. I gave my frames a full 24 hours to dry, and once the 24 hours was up, I was able to remove the shims and remove every corner from the corner jigs very easily, and I was left with a very stiff and nice looking frame that was perfectly aligned in the form of a hexagon. Then I made just a few more frames, enough to achieve the pattern that I had planned for the wall that I stand in front of when I record a lot of my YouTube intros and outros. Prior to using these acoustic frame panels that we're currently working on, I was using these square panels from AeroZoom, and they're actually not so square. Most of them came in warped, never settled into actual squares. The quality is terrible, and you can see the white ones and even some of the gray ones have yellowed. When I contacted their customer service, they told me the yellowing was from UV light and oxygen, which is basically everywhere, and they acknowledged that there is an issue, but they wouldn't rectify it. So I'm going to trim down these panels and make the best of what I've got to work with. But before we go trimming any of those panels, I want to show you guys the 3D printed mounting hardware that I came up with, and this is purely optional. Again, you can use other methods to mount, but the white one in this corner allows you to mount the panel with the corner facing up, and the black one, which mounts on the inside face, allows you to mount these hexagonal panels here with one of the straight faces parallel to the ground. Now, both of these guys here mount to the inside of the panels, so they will be hidden, and they actually have holes in them to give you a reference point for measuring your pattern and marking them on the wall. And so I'm going to start the process here of removing the old panels off my wall. I'm going to be using a paint scraper to remove some of the residue from the 3M adhesive tape, and then I'll have a nice clean slate to work with, and we're going to get that new pattern up on the wall. With the old panels removed and the new frames laid on top, you can see how I chose my dimensions for the frames, and I chose them to maximize the material that I'm going to get when I go to trim these old panels and fit them inside the new hexagonal frames. And by trimming them, I'm going to eliminate those wavy edges that were supposed to be square, and that way I'm going to get a nice consistent shape out of these things, and it should look really sharp on the wall. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the panel upside down. I'm going to use a Sharpie to mark off the inside dimensions of my frame, and I'm going to simply use some scissors here to cut out my pattern and shape that should fit nicely inside of the frames. Once I had all the foam panels cut out, I used the 3D printed brackets and regular picture frame hanging nails to hang the panels on the wall according to the plan that I drew up. It's worth mentioning again that you don't need the 3D printed brackets to hang these things. You could use regular sawtooth hangers to hang these as well. After that, it was just a matter of adding some nice accent lighting, and I had myself a pretty interesting background for shooting some new YouTube content. If you guys are interested in making your own, check out the video description down below, where I'm going to provide a link where you can download the 3D printable parts that I used in this video, as well as some drawings of some potential layouts for these panels that you might find interesting to use on your wall. Don't forget to let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. See you guys in the next video.